Welcome back. I'm Lena. This is my channel, Lena's Bookshelf, and today we're going to do an unhaul. I have here two stacks, about 20 or so books that I'm getting rid of. Here's one stack, and I have one more stack. Ooh, it's heavy. Here's the other stack. So we're just gonna go through these today. These are all books that I'm getting rid of. They're leaving my collection. What I do with these books after I unhaul them is first I will offer them to my sister and my friends, see if they are interested in any of them. After that, I have a local bookstore that buys some books right down the road from me, and so I like to offer to them first because I like to support my local neighborhood bookstore. I'm also in there a lot. After I sell any of the books that I can, I donate them to a local hospice thrift shop that's really well known in the area. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get into this. Some of these books I liked and are just leaving my collection because I don't have any reason to keep them. Others I DNF'd. Others I don't even want to try to read. So, and some of them I just plain didn't like. So let's get into this in no order. Actually, maybe we should start with Book of the Month copies. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's start with Book of the Month copies. So the first book we have here is Before She Knew Him by Peter Swanson. I got this book in 2019, and I just kind of got it because it was the thriller that month. I'd heard some good things about Peter Swanson, and I read it. I think this one was about like these people move into a house and the woman thinks she sees something sketchy happen across the street. Nobody believes her. Kind of pretty basic domestic thriller, but I won't ever read it again. And I think I remembered having some problematic things with it too. I've never recommended it to anybody, so that one's going. Let's go with this one next. Everything We Didn't Say by Nicole Bart. This book, again, I'd never heard of this author. I think I just got it because it was the thriller that month. It sounded like a good premise. And honestly, I couldn't tell you much of anything about this book. I remember it's like set in, I think, Iowa or something. There was a murder, I guess, and she doesn't think it's her brother, and so she's trying to figure out what actually happened. So that's all I can tell you about this book. Pretty basic, pretty generic. This one's going. Next, we have Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This was the Book of the Month pick in January of this year. I wanted to like this one. I tried. I think it's an And Then There Were None retelling. Yeah, it's an Agatha Christie retelling, but very loose. I felt like the girls were entitled. I felt like it was kind of, I don't know, stupid. The premise I thought was not that great. These people are all stuck on an island, and I don't know. It was just, it seemed like silly little privileged teenagers like playing dress up on an island. That's kind of what it felt like. And I thought the twist was stupid. I didn't really understand it. I didn't really think that the stakes were as high as the characters were making it seem. I think I gave this book 1 star, which I rarely give out 1 stars. Typically, if it's at the point where I'm thinking I'm gonna rate it 1 star, I would just DNF it. But I did read this in February when I was doing a team challenge, and I was just trying to read as many books as I could as fast as I could. And so I was just like, whatever, I just need to get through this because it met a prompt. And yeah, but it was 1 star. And people love this book, and I tried really hard to love it. And I loved The Wife Upstairs, her last book. That was a Jane Eyre retelling, and I enjoyed that one. So I wanted to like this one, but I just really didn't. So that one is definitely leaving. Next, we have The Book of Essie by Megan McLean Ware. This book was fine. I got it in June of 2018. Wasn't really anything wrong with it. This girl who grew up in this very religious, very strict family, and they had a TV show about it, kind of like a Duggar style TV show almost. It was kind of slow moving, and I don't know, this is another book that like a lot of people like, and people told me that I would like it because of the like weird homeschool kind of cult-ish type vibes. I don't know, it was just fine. I didn't really enjoy the twist. I felt bad for some of the characters, but like not in a good way. So this one's going. Next up, let's move over here. So we have The Proposal. I got this book in November of 2018. This is a romance. I don't read romance very much, but I had read another book by this author, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought I would try it again, but this one was just kind of okay. It was just kind of one of those things, the premise made it sound really good, but then it didn't end up actually being that. So I thought it was going to be about these people meet at a baseball game. She's there with her boyfriend, and he proposes over the Jumbotron. And she's like, I don't really know you that well. And so this other guy like saves her from that situation, saves her from the embarrassment. And then I thought they were going to go on like a vacation, do almost like a friends to lovers type of thing. That's not what it was at all. That was like happened in the first chapter, and this guy like saved her from the weird, awkward Jumbotron proposal. And then it just went in a totally different direction. It just wasn't really anything that I would ever read again. Like I said, the other book I read by this author was pretty good and I would recommend, but this one I wouldn't. The next book we have here is For Better and Worse by Margot Hunt, and I have held on to this book for a long time. I got this in November of 2018, and I don't know, this one is kind of one of those how far would you go for your family type of books, and I liked it at the time when I read it, but since then I've just read other books that have a similar premise of this, of like something happened to my family and now I need to get revenge. I've just read others that I enjoyed more. So this one I think is gonna go. My sister read it and she kind of felt so about it too, so I don't think it's ever anything I would want to reread. Okay, next we have two from Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. So we have You Are Not Alone and we have The Wife Between Us. So their first book together, An Anonymous Girl, I am keeping that one. I did like that one. I gave it 4 stars and I'm gonna keep it on my shelf. But these two, not so much. Domestic thrillers I'm picky with. I'm picky with domestic thrillers, and if there's not, murder, then I'm not always super interested. That sounds terrible. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I would ever pick up another book by this author. They just came out with one recently and I didn't find any reason to pick it up, and from the reviews I've heard, I haven't really been interested. So I was keeping these just to have all of their books, but then when I decided I'm not going to pick up the other one, I don't like these, so I'm just going to keep An Anonymous Girl, and these two are going to go somewhere else. Okay, so those are all of the Book of the Month books that I'm unhauling that I have actually read. Now these are going to be ones that I either haven't read or DNF'd. So the first DNF I have is Girl A by Abigail Dean. I got this in February of 2021, and this I thought was supposed to be somebody who escaped this house of horrors. Like she lived in this, horrible environment. She was abused and mistreated, and then she kind of broke out of that, and I thought it was supposed to be about that, but it ended up being about a lot of different things. It was slow moving. I didn't like the writing style. It has long chapters, which I really don't like. So I DNF'd this. I think I read the first like 80 pages and then I was like, no, I don't think this is for me. So DNF'd that one. The next book that I DNF'd is Jane Harper's The Survivors. I got this in January of 2021. Again, a thriller that just didn't do anything for me in the first 100 pages. It was a lot of like sailor stuff. I'm finding that I don't really like things that are set on islands or water. And it's a shame that I'm finding that out now because I have like 4 of those on my TBR shelf. So we'll see. But this one, it didn't seem to make any sense. There was some kind of like folklore and old wives' tales about like the sea that were supposed to play into it. And I don't know. I tried twice. I tried reading it and I also tried listening to the audiobook and I couldn't get into it either time. Next we have White Fur. This book I've had since 2017. And I think it's one of those that I just got because I had so many credits and I just need to get something. And the premise sounds kind of cool, but I think it's like literary fiction and I don't know. I tried 2 different times to read it. I think it's about a couple that meets in college and they're trying to, make a name for themselves. It says a stunning star-crossed love story set against the glitz and grit of 1980s New York City. I just wasn't interested. I tried twice. Not for me. The next book we have here is The Oracle Year. So this one is, I don't even know what this is supposed to be about. But I think it's a legal thriller. Yeah, I see politics and the word president and money and spies and assassins, and I just, no. no. The next one is A Nearly Normal Family by M.T. Edwardson. And I had heard good things about this, and so I really tried to read this one. I also got it used at a bookstore. And I thought it was going to be kind of like a psychological thriller, but yeah, it says this twisted narrative of love and murder, a horrific crime, makes a seemingly normal family question everything they knew about their life and one another. But I really just don't enjoy the writing. It seems very long-winded. It's a lot of dialogue, and the first 100 pages, nothing really happened. Sad, because I love psychological thrillers, but I think it's just the writing style. I think it was translated into English, and sometimes I struggle getting into those stories. So that one was a bust. Next up, we have 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. So this is the second book that I had on my shelf by Peter Swanson, and I've heard good things about this one. It's gone around, you know, BookTube, and Reading with Jess told me that she had bought it, and so when she hauled it, I was like, ooh, I saw it at my local bookstore for like $3. I was like, yes, I will get it, and I can read it along with Jess when she reads it. But Jessie decided to unhaul it as well, I believe. Then I also heard that this book ruins it if you haven't read some of those, and I haven't read all of the ones that it talks about. But even though this is like a nice copy, and I love the like kind of jagged edge, I don't know what that's called, beveled? Is that what those are called, beveled edges? I love that, when all the edges aren't like smooth. I've seen enough people dislike this or unhaul it. And again, I've heard some kind of questionable things about Peter Swanson, so I think I'm done with trying Peter Swanson. This next book, Our Little Secret by Romney. I don't remember where I got this or when or why, but it was supposed to be a psychological suspense, and it was definitely not. So this book is also set in like a small town in Iowa, and I read it at the same time as I read the other book that I talked about earlier, the Everything We Didn't Say. I read them like right around the same time, and so I get them both really confused. But basically, this girl has this friend, and something happens, and she gets drunk and doesn't remember what happens, and apparently it's bad because then he doesn't talk to her for years, and then there's this mystery. I don't know. I'm definitely not explaining this well. I gave it 2 stars only because it had a decent ending. I like ambiguous endings, and I like when the ending happens and it could go this way or it could go this way, and it's kind of up to the reader to decide. So I do enjoy that. I was expecting high hopes for this book because Ruth Ware blurbs it, B.A. Paris, who wrote Behind Closed Doors, which is my favorite thriller of all time, and Chevy Stevens.
Well, maybe I should have known because of that, because I did not like the Chevy Stevens book I read.
So, yeah. So I read this, 2 stars, would not pick it up again, would not recommend it, couldn't tell you anything about it except that the ending was ambiguous, and I don't even remember what the ending was. So, oh my gosh, my stack almost fell over. That would have been bad. Okay. Next, we have Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered by Karen and Georgia, who do the podcast My Favorite Murder. I picked this up and I started reading this because I do listen to the podcast and I do like it, but I just don't really care about their lives. I honestly skip through a lot of the podcast, like all of their intro stuff and talking about random stuff just to get to like the true crime story. So I should have known that when I picked this up, but I found this at a little tiny adorable bookstore in Buffalo, New York. And it had like cats living there in the bookstore, just like running around. And so I kind of wanted to like support a local bookstore. And so I was like, well, this is, you know, pretty good. I'll pick this up. But yeah, it was not for me. I DNF'd it after a couple pages, but my sister does want this. So this is getting unhauled to my sister. This next book is also getting unhauled to my sister, and it's The Breakdown by B.A. Paris. This book was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I did actually finish this one. I've now read all of B.A. Paris's published books, and I have loved some of them, and then the others are just kind of meh, just fine. So this one is about this woman sees something happen, a woman broken down in her car, and she doesn't stop to help. Come to find out, the woman dies. She finds out on the news, and so then she's living with this guilt, and she's also kind of like an unreliable narrator. She's not sure if what she remembers is actually what happened. And so it kind of starts with that, and then it keeps going through time, and each chapter is like the date, and so you're like kind of following her as she goes along, and she's getting confused, things like that. I'm fine with an unreliable narrator, but it kind of went too far with the whole unreliable narrator thing. So I also don't really like when like mental health is used as like a trope, like, oh, she must not remember because she takes antidepressants, so therefore she's very unreliable. Like, just because you take antidepressants doesn't make you unreliable. Still love B.A. Paris, has still written some of my favorite thrillers of all time. This one was just not really anything I would read again. Also, like I said, I'm gonna unhaul it to my sister. The next book we have is What She Knew by Gilly Mcmillan. I had heard about Gilly Mcmillan. I see her books in a lot of the different like little bookstores that I go to. Like, I got this one for $2 at a local bookstore. This just went on too long. It went on way too long. I listened to it, some on audiobook, some reading. And it was about this woman who, her son disappears in the park, and it's about like her trying to figure out what happened to her son and everything. And it just had some weird aspects to the plot that I didn't think were necessary. She has a weird relationship with her ex-husband. She has a very bizarre relationship with her sister. And then there were these chapters about this detective, which I didn't realize, but this is actually a part of a series following this detective. But I'm not really a fan of detective POVs. I don't usually enjoy reading detective POVs, and I don't think I would pick up another Gilly Mcmillan. The last book we have here is Dear Child by Romney Houseman. I gave this book 3 stars. I hate that I didn't love it. My friend Jacqueline, she really enjoyed it, and I've heard other people that really enjoyed it. I just didn't connect to the story. Like, this girl is stolen and she's trying to survive in this cabin in the woods with her captor. It had some POVs that you're not really sure like who they are. It also had long chapters. It also has been translated from German, and so again, I don't know what it is about translated works that I just don't seem to connect with very well. Didn't love it, gave it 3 stars, but wouldn't read it again. It's definitely not something that I would ever want to read or recommend to somebody again. Okay, that is all of the books that I'm unhauling, all the books that are leaving my collection. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you loved them. I'm sorry if I unhauled somebody's favorite. Yeah, maybe, I'm taking these to my sister in the bookstore like next week. So in the next couple days, if there's any of these books that you think, oh my gosh, Lena, you have to try that, you have to give that one more shot of these ones that I haven't read, then maybe I can be convinced. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for unhauling books with me. I'll see you in my next video.